This Week in Gaming with Naomi Kyle.
Hey everyone, I'm Naomi Kyle and welcome back to This Week in Gaming. This week we're catching up on all the big changes coming to Xbox Game Pass, a new Disney RPG video game, one of the coolest Overwatch mashups to date, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree news, of course, and a whole lot more. We've got all of this week's gaming news, so let's get started. We've covered Xbox Game Pass plenty on the show, and every week during our Games Out This Week segment, there are always new additions to the service and sometimes even new games to be had for free the very day they launch. Xbox Game Pass has been the best deal in gaming since the service launched back in 2017 when it cost just $10 a month. Well, today, Game Pass Ultimate is $17 a month, and it is still an incredible value. But if I told you Microsoft is raising prices for Game Pass yet again, how would you feel? We all knew another price hike was coming eventually, but the changes to Game Pass don't stop there. Their tier system is going through changes as well, and not for the better. A new tier is being added called Xbox Game Pass Standard. In this new tier, subscribers will have access to hundreds of games, Xbox Game Pass Core for online play, but restricted access to day one releases. Xbox Game Pass for consoles is slowly being phased out as well, as it is no longer available for new members. Current subscribers, however, can maintain their membership status if they have the automatic renewal option enabled. Pretty nice. PC Game Pass is being increased from $10 a month to $12 a month, and Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is being increased to $20 a month. Microsoft is giving subscribers some time to decide whether or not they would like to keep the service, as these changes won't go into effect until September 12th. So what does all of this mean for Call of Duty Black Ops 6? It was revealed during the Xbox showcase that Black Ops 6 would be available for Game Pass subscribers on day one. But now, with the new revisions being implemented to Game Pass, is that still the case? Well, Game Pass Ultimate, PC Game Pass, and those who have been grandfathered into Xbox Game Pass console are granted access to day one releases on Game Pass. But for those who don't find themselves in any of those categories and you want to play Black Ops 6 at launch, be prepared to buy the game at full price. Disney announced their latest push into the mobile gaming space with an RPG? That's right, developer Gung Ho Online Entertainment has been hard at work creating a classic turn-based RPG complete with pixelated sprites. They're calling it Disney Pixel RPG. The premise for this RPG is that dozens of video game worlds have collided with each other, dumping Disney characters from those worlds together into your world. As the player, you are tasked with rounding up classic Disney characters and returning them to their game and restoring order to the Disney universe. Disney Pixel RPG is going to be free to play, but parents be forewarned. There is a gacha mechanic where players can spend in-game currency that can be redeemed to collect new characters via this gacha mechanic. Disney Pixel RPG will be releasing on iOS and Android later this year on September 9th. Many struggle with the level of difficulty that has been set by Elden Ring's DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree. But for a small group of elite gamers, the DLC is not hard enough. One of these cyber champions is Twitch streamer Miss Mika, who just recently beat the DLC with her feet. Yep, Miss Mika didn't play with a controller. That would have been too easy. Her preferred method of play is with a dance pad connected to a virtual controller. And after 7 days and 325 deaths, she beat the final boss and completed the DLC. Nice. Miss Mika didn't get this skilled overnight, however. She has been beating games with a dance pad for years. Just last year, she was able to beat 2 Millennias, Elden Ring's hardest boss, on separate systems. Simultaneously, she defeated 1 Millennia with her DualSense and the other with her dance pad. If you want to see Miss Mika doing one of her crazy challenge runs live, you can visit her on Twitch at Miss Mika, 2 S's, 2 K's, 2 A's, where she is streaming most days of the week between 6:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. Pacific. The 6v6 tactical shooter Overwatch 2 has begun their latest crossover event featuring the Transformers. That's right, the event spotlights Overwatch heroes Reinhardt, Ramatra, Bastion, and Illari, who have been given new skins representing their respective Transformer. Illari is RC, Bastion is Bumblebee, Reinhardt is Optimus Prime, and Ramatra is Megatron. The skins have been tastefully tailored to highlight each Transformer's color scheme while maintaining the overall look and feel of their paired hero. We've received a trailer for the upcoming A Quiet Place game, A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead. The new trailer sheds light on what we can expect of this original story in the A Quiet Place universe. The game begins on Day 1, mirroring the prequel, A Quiet Place Day 1. It then jumps ahead 105 days to follow our heroes, Alex, a young woman who is pregnant and suffers from asthma, and her boyfriend Martin. Alex and Martin silently creep through their new environment to gather supplies and stay hidden from humanity's greatest threat, the Death Angels. A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead still doesn't have an official release date, but it is expected to release this year in 2024. Now it's time to go over the video games releasing this week.
Games out this week.
On July 15th, Darkest Dungeon 2 is ported from PC to PS4, PS5, and Nintendo Switch. Galactic Glitch and Fallen Leaf release exclusively on PC. On July 16th, as I discussed with our guest Jesse Cox just last week, their game Gestalt Steam and Cinder will be launching exclusively on PC. Cataclysmo and Yowling Mythical Journey will also be launching exclusively on PC. Evil v Evil and the Skybreaker DLC from Avatar Frontiers of Pandora launches on PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. Flock soars over to PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. Then on July 17th, The Sacred Acorn launches exclusively on PC. TMNT Splintered Fate launches exclusively on Switch. Then Asphalt Legends Unite launches on all platforms, including iOS and Android. July 18th, Meifumado launches exclusively on PC. Dungeons of Hindenburg launches exclusively on Xbox Series X and S. Nintendo World Championships NES Edition takes home gold when it launches exclusively on Switch. Bow Path of the Teal Lotus launches on Switch, PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn fires onto PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. And Skim hops onto all platforms. On July 19th, College Football 25 Deluxe Edition touches down on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. Kanitsugami, Path of the Goddess, slashes onto PS4, PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. Then Tori's Triple Pack, a collection of Tori Jumbled Jam, Tori Genesis, Tori Missions, double jumps onto all Nintendo Switch consoles. For the Epic Games Store, users can download Arcade Paradise and Maid of Sker for free from July 18th until the 25th. Amazon Prime subscribers can download YouTubers Life 2, Maneater, and Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition for free starting July 18th.
Quest complete.
So that's it for the news this week. It's now time to chat with our guest, Andrea Rene, who joins us to chat about how Xbox Game Pass is changing and whether Microsoft is making the right moves.
Select game mode. Multiplayer.
Hey, Andrea, thank you so much for coming back on our show. I'm so excited to have you to talk about what's going on in the news this week.
Thanks for having me, Naomi.
I want to get a quick gut check from you on the state of the industry, because we're halfway through the year at this point. In your opinion, where do you think we stand compared to how everything started this year?
I think we're in the same place that we were in, a slightly better place in the sense that I don't think we're going to continue to see mass layoffs every week as we were seeing through the first 2 quarters of the year. Now that we're into the back half of the year, we're entering a very different fiscal time for companies. So I think most of the action that has been taken is done for the year, but it doesn't mean that the industry itself is done shrinking because there was such a huge explosion. But I think we're in a calm period now.
Oh, that's good to hear. A bunch of changes, of course, were announced this week. This is the big news. So we're going to be covering a little bit on the Xbox Game Pass changes that Microsoft announced, that Microsoft's game subscription service, for those who don't know. The main thing is, of course, the price increases that are happening across pretty much all their tiers. How do you feel about these price increases and how fans have reacted to the news?
I think the price increases were to be expected. Fan reaction also to be expected. Whenever there's any change of any kind, it's always going to ruffle some feathers, but we saw this coming a mile away, both consumers and industry alike. And I think people who are really upset about it are just denying the reality of the economic situation that we're in, and everything gets more expensive over time.
Yeah, it's one of the life certainties, right? Taxes and price increases. So the new Xbox Game Pass standard tier, this was also a big thing for folks. They won't be including day one releases anymore, which is a huge bummer. It was obviously a huge, very popular feature of basically the basic Game Pass tier. Why do you think Xbox went with this decision?
They went with this decision because Xbox Game Pass Core is really just a rebranded version of Xbox Live Gold, which didn't have access to Xbox Game Pass day one exclusives anyway. And the fact that Xbox put it on Core during the rebranding was an effort to get more people onto the Game Pass subscription. Give them a little taste of what they can expect if they subscribe to the higher tiers, and now say, we hope that you enjoyed this trial period, but now it's over. I think this is once again Xbox sort of muddling the message when they really could have changed how they rolled out this announcement and people wouldn't have been as confused.
If you were Microsoft, how would you have rolled it out?
I think reminding people why this tier exists, that they didn't want Xbox Live Gold, which is fundamentally a subscription service to provide you with online multiplayer access and cloud saves, right? That's a very basic part of their subscription platform. Reminding them that this is just, a basic subscription. And if you want the high-end features, you got to pay the high-end price. And how exactly you would do that, I would probably need to noodle on. I'm not a communications expert, but right. I think just being authentic with people is super important, particularly with gamers. Gamers really want transparent authenticity in their marketing messages. We're seeing that across the board with companies. And a lot of subscription services intentionally make it confusing because they don't want people to leave the platform. And that is a whole other conversation for another time.
Yeah, obviously their whole goal with this is to hopefully, they want to make more money. They want to see, they haven't seen subscription numbers go up. So this is just the natural next step in hopefully making money back to cover their costs. The Call of Duty Black Ops 6 thing, I'm not sure if you saw, but that also was a big discussion because they were like, oh, it's going to be day one release. Everyone was really excited about that. But of course, now the standard tier has gone up in price. People weren't expecting that, and standard tier won't have day one access. So they'll have to go for the higher tier subscription to get day one access to Call of Duty Black Ops 6. At this point, do you think Microsoft can do anything to kind of fix the perception that is out there right now of them?
Absolutely. I don't think the perception overall is bad. A lot of times the noise that we hear on social media and in certain internet forums is not necessarily indicative of the larger mass consumer attitude about situations. I think $14.99 a month for access to one of the biggest games in the world is a great price still. And the idea that $9.99 a month is going to get you access to those giant AAA games across their now incredibly vast library of blockbuster video game franchises is a little bit delusional given the state of where subscription service is at. Subscription services across the board in entertainment have all gone up. And while that is really unfortunate for us, the people that have to pay for them, what it means for consumers is making decisions about where do I want to spend my dollars for the things that I want to spend my time on the most? So if you want to play a bunch of the games that are coming down the line, like Dragon Age the Veilguard, right? Fable, the eventual Gears of War, like Diablo, right? Those things, then this should not really be too much of a pinch for you.
Yeah, so I guess in your opinion, there is still value to having a subscription of some kind when it comes to Xbox.
Oh, huge. We're in a new era. Well, I shouldn't say new anymore. We've been here for about a decade now. We are fully in digital ownership. And I use ownership for people listening with giant air quotes because you don't really own any of these games anymore. So if owning the physical media is important to you, you can still do that for the vast majority of games. There are some exceptions, of course, but subscription is the way to get access to so many games without having to buy physical copies. And it allows you to try a bunch of games. Now, if you're spending most of your time playing video games, there's still a huge value in Xbox Game Pass. And this price increase doesn't change that.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Because I think that that's the main thing is people feel like maybe they are missing out on stuff, but there's still value to it. Any ideas on what Microsoft needs to change to increase their issue, which is that subscribers weren't going up, right? So this is kind of why we're seeing this big changeover. Is there anything in your head that pops in that says, hey, like this would be a great idea for Microsoft to push this to hopefully increase subscriber numbers, or maybe just not expect subscribers to grow from this point on?
Well, they need to release AAA games. I mean, that's really the thing that we all have been talking about as pundits in the industry, looking at what is Game Pass and why are people not becoming new subscribers. They haven't had a really big blockbuster banger of a title in Xbox Game Pass day one for quite some time. I think they were really hoping that Starfield was going to be that game for them, and that launch, we all know, didn't go quite as expected in that regard. And now when we look to the rest of 2024 and into 2025 and beyond, with the Activision Blizzard acquisition underway and that portfolio of games fully underneath their umbrella, I think that they have a lot of positive things coming down the road, but we're not quite there yet, right? Like, people don't necessarily want to buy a $14 or $15 a month subscription to play indie games. And I think that once we get to the first big AAA game, then we'll probably see numbers go up.
That's my hope as well. And I think this price increase, if anything, I'm just hoping it doesn't change the kind of games that they do allow on Xbox Game Pass and the games that they do provide for that service. Do you foresee any changes around that their roster might not be as flashy down the road just because they're not seeing those increases in subscribers?
Definitely not. They've already spent that money, right?
Right.
So they absolutely have to recoup it. And subscription services are a fantastic way for companies to have a bigger pool of cash on hand. It's why subscription services are so popular these days. And if we as fans of video games and fans of these studios don't want to see any more studio closures, don't want to see continued layoffs, we have to support the games that we want to play. And it's such a tough proposition for people because there's so many subscriptions in our daily lives.
Yeah.
And I think
subscription fatigue is the thing that's been the buzzword that's been going around.
Yes. I mean, I think the average person just here in the United States has like between $200 and $300 worth of subscriptions a month, which is just an outrageous number. So what gamers need to do is just decide which of the subscription services that I use are worth my time. At face value, Xbox Game Pass is absolutely worth your time, even at the price increase, even with the base tier getting rid of, the day and date access. There's still an incredible value there. But if that value is in the eye of the beholder, and that's up for each individual consumer to decide for themselves.
That's why I love having you on my show, because you always keep it positive and you always have a positive outlook on just the game industry as a whole, and I really appreciate that. Speaking of games to play, what have you been playing lately? Is there anything that's like just been keeping your attention?
Well, I have two very different games that I've been playing. I am almost to the end of Destiny 2, the Final Shapes campaign. That came out right ahead of Summer Game Fest and Playdays, so I wasn't able to get to that. And it's just been amazing to do that campaign. Really been enjoying my time. Episode 2 is out now, so there's a lot of post-campaign content to dive into. So I've been really having a bunch of fun getting back into the world of Destiny. And I've also been playing a mobile game, which has probably been taking too much of my time, according to my husband, called Garden Joy from the folks at Scopely and Boiling Game Studios. So this is essentially like a garden decorating game. And so it's a little bit addictive to me. I'm not a big fan of the way that they've done microtransactions in the game, but a lot of it's really tugging at my current desire to learn more about plants and plant life, because you can open up menus and learn about what regions plants come from, what they want in terms of like light and climate and, what regions they're native to. And just kind of like a little bit of an educational piece to it, which is really fun.
Oh, that's so great. I've been getting into gardening myself. I have a couple lemon trees I've been tending to. I just had my apricot tree bear a bunch of fruit. It's so fun. And to have like a little cozy game to scratch that itch it sounds perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrea. Always so good to have you on the show. I love your insight. You covered everything that I needed in terms of like what gamers want, like speaking to them, which I really appreciate. Hope you'll come back on my show.
I will.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks again. Andrea Rene is founder and host of the What's Good Games podcast. You can follow her on Twitter at Andrea Rene.
Flawless victory! Continue!
And that's This Week in Gaming. I'm your host, Naomi Kyle. I had the best time this week bringing you all the latest in games. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks to my co-writer, Josh Seaman, as well, for writing the show with me every week. Don't forget to let me know what you're playing and what you think of these stories by tagging me at Naomi Kyle on social. From all of us here at This Week in Gaming, we wish you a gaming-filled week, and we'll see you next week. Talk to you later.
This Week in Gaming is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more podcasts just like these.